I've done a few campaigns in my day, never up here, so this will be a little different. But one thing all campaigns have in common is they do need your help, both financially and as volunteers. So we implore you, Greg's the best candidate in the race, but we really need your help. So please see the contribution table to make a contribution. Please see me to sign up and volunteer so we can make sure Greg's the next mayor of Gloucester. Woo! Let's hear it for Greg, guys. Now I'm going to turn it over to somebody who you all know, former Mayor Bruce Tobey.
Hey everybody, it is a pleasure to be here with friends and family of the guy who's going to be the next mayor of Gloucester, Greg Verga. I can tell you from unique first-hand experience that there's nothing like the ride, the thrill, the exhilaration of a mayoral campaign, especially when you win. Are we in this to win? Let me answer the fundamental question that people put to me. Folks are going to put it to you, so I want you all to think about it and have your own answer at the ready. They say to me, Bruce, why are you supporting Greg Verga? Here's what I tell them. Over the course of a lot of years, I've gotten to serve with Greg Verga, but more importantly, I've gotten to know the man. This is a good first-class man. Grade A. Who is Greg Verga? He's the son of this city. Grew up here, steeped in Gloucester, went to school here, raised a family here, built a business here. He hasn't done things the easy way always. Greg Verga did college with wife and kids nights over 10 years. He earned that degree the hard way. And then he put it to work in a profession, helping to build the Gloucester economy and sustaining himself and his family, and yet still found the time to serve the community he loves. And how does he serve the community he loves? And this is what I marvel at about Greg. Quiet, but don't you be fooled by that still surface of the water. Somehow. Because beneath that surface is a lot of heart, deep thought, analytical care, two ears that work, because he doesn't just listen, he actively listens and processes. And then he makes decisions and acts on them. And what is the yardstick by which he makes a decision? What will serve the greater good of Gloucester, and that's as good as it gets. Now, Greg is going to be running against an honorable guy in this mayoral race. Let me tell you how I distinguish them. There are two ways to govern. It's kind of like shooting a gun. Ready, shoot, aim. Ready, aim, fire. Greg Verga aims. He takes the time. He listens. Let me give you an example that has moved me enormously from the point of view of how a guy engages, how things are supposed to work. 2 words. Full of school. Full of school. A public asset, a building with a future, something with life that could have been perpetuated, and he did all he could to advance that. Committee work behind the scenes, report writing, insisting on a public dialogue that gave a community a full list of options, even though others wouldn't agree with them. And we went forward with an exercise that really didn't serve moving things forward. And even now, still looking not to reach a conclusion in terms of what a use is going to be, but doing a process to do it right, to get it done for the benefit of the community. And I'll tell you what, friends, in my world, and I hope in yours, that's what we want in our next mayor. And I am here to tell you, those are the reasons why I support Greg Verga. Those are the kind of reasons I want you all to think about, add your own, share them across this community. And understand this. I don't want to make a confused message when I said Greg is the son of this community. You don't have to be born here to be the mayor of Gloucester. You don't have to be from here, but you've got to be of here. And if there's a guy who's of here, and I'm proud to call him my friend, and I'm proud to support him, and I'm going to work real hard, as I ask all of you to as well, the next mayor of Gloucester, Greg Verga.
I probably should have spoke first. But I just wanted to say thank you all for coming out today, taking time out of your busy schedule to be here to support me in this race for mayor. As Bruce said, it's going to be a tough ride. But for the next 8 months, we're going to talk about the issues that we face together as a community. And to me, community is the key word for the campaign. And I'm talking about both our physical community as well as our sense of community, because that's what's going to move us forward. Now, I was doing some research recently on, thank you, Bob, doing some research on the internet, and I came across an article called Keys to a Stronger Community. And the first item was good governance, and I'm going to read this to you. Strong community begins and ends with something you can't fake, trust. Elected officials, city hall, and other community leaders listening, engaging in a meaningful examination of competing agendas and trade-offs, and acting what they've heard is the process through which you transcend political stagnation and start getting somewhere. Transcend political stagnation and start getting somewhere. Is that something we can get behind? Now, thank you. Our charter purposely set up our city government as a nonpartisan entity. And I'm proud because if you look around this room, you will see the full political spectrum of Gloucester represented here. And I'm proud to have this widespread support, and I believe it's because we share at least one common goal, and that's to improve our community. Now, you can't govern in a vacuum. You can't listen to only a select few, and typically the few who agree with every word you have to say. To govern effectively, you need to listen to all points of view, you have to weigh the pluses and minuses, and reach an informed decision about what's in the best interest of the community as a whole, even if it's against your own personal best interest. Now, to me, public input and transparency are critical, and they're not just buzzwords that should be adopted in time for a political campaign. They're truly what I believe are needed for a positive change. So, thank you. My time on the school committee and the city council, this is exactly what I've done. On the school committee, I got our school committee agendas put online. Seems like a simple exercise, but they weren't there before. It allowed people to go online and see what was supposed to happen before it happened. I got the school committee meetings moved to City Hall where we had live broadcasts, so you could tune in to see what was happening while it was happening. Just this week at City Council, we adopted an ordinance I put forward that requires all boards and commissions to get their minutes online. Now, over the course of my time at the council, I've had some disagreements with the previous administration about areas I felt needed a little more public scrutiny. One of them, you could guess, Bruce alluded to, was Fuller School. Some of us thought it would have been a good idea, more efficient, to move these Pond Road offices that we rented for $100,000 a year to Fuller School, the building we own. That money could have been reprogrammed to support the building. Others didn't think it was worthy to investigate. Some of us questioned the wisdom of moving the school administrative offices out of the building we owned into more rented space for $250,000 a year. $250,000 none of us knew existed. That could have been reprogrammed to the building. Some of us questioned quite vociferously, we were concerned about the condition of the building that was deteriorating before our eyes. Others weren't so concerned about that. Back in 2011, some of us tried to get a question on the ballot to finally resolve the issue and let the public weigh in with their thoughts about what Fuller should become. Others weren't so interested in the public input, and it took 2 more years before a watered-down question made it to the ballot. How Fuller was handled in the past, those are mistakes of the past, and I can tell you, it's the type of mistake that won't be repeated when I'm your mayor. So, going forward, Fuller can be part of the economic resurgence in this city as we grow our industrial base. And I was told if I try to explain to you the differences between the commercial and residential tax base, I'd put you to sleep. So we could just summarize it by saying, not a lot of commercial taxpayers. Most of the bills are paid by us, the homeowners, the residential taxpayers. But continuing to raise the property tax is not the solution. It's not the most efficient way to grow a city. As a realtor and a homeowner, I see how property taxes can impact the ability to attract and retain families. And families are the backbone to any community. They get involved in the schools, they get involved in civic organizations, and they help us to thrive and move forward. But as I said, we need some relief. What can it come through? Economic development. I mentioned Fuller. Whatever we do with Fuller, as I said from day one, it's got to be done in a fair, transparent process. To date, I don't believe it's happened, but I'm going to be pushing for the rest of my time on the council and pushing through as your mayor that we have a fair and transparent process. And Fuller potentially could provide some serious tax revenue and provide some jobs. Now, another area that we should be looking at is the I-4C2 parking lot. And I say that sort of tongue-in-cheek. When I voted for that, I've said many times, I didn't vote to spend $1 million on a parking lot, which is what it's become. I-4C2 has its limitations because of local zoning and the designated port area. But if we put our minds to it and think outside the box, something could happen there. Potentially more jobs and tax revenue. The time for idea development has passed. It's time for some actual development. Now, the key to stability for the things that we need and expect in a community are going to come through economic development. And two of the areas that rise right to the surface, public safety and the public schools. Public safety. It wasn't that long ago that I would drive by the West Gloucester fire station, and on occasion I'd see the close sign. Drive by the station in Bayview on my way to see the in-laws in Lanesville, and see the close sign pretty regularly. Drive by the station in Magnolia, and pretty much every time it would be closed. We're fortunate that we have a contract in place that keeps the stations open now, but it comes at a significant cost to us. So in order to keep the ability to pay that bill going forward, we need to keep the economic engine growing to keep the cash flowing so we can keep the stations open like we all want and expect. Public schools are obviously another area that's important to every one of us. And my interest in the schools didn't just develop when I decided to run for mayor. I was involved in the school committee for 8 years. And keep in mind, the mayor has an automatic seat on the school committee. I look forward to returning as a member as your mayor. Now, the schools define a community. Whether or not you have kids in school, schools define a community. They can be both an anchor and a magnet. And an anchor, I mean, they can anchor people who grow up here to want to stay here, to raise their families here, and send their kids to our schools. They can be a magnet that attracts new families to our community. Because as I said, families are the backbone to any community, and they're what's going to help us move forward. So where do we go from here? Well, we need to plan now for tomorrow, to paraphrase the famous saying on the wall at Cairo's Auditorium that the city councilors are reminded of quite frequently. And I suggest that 2023 is our first milestone. Why 2023? That's our 400th anniversary, and it's really not that far away. So we need to start thinking big about what the vision is for the coming decades, and we need to ensure that every person in this community feels empowered to share their thoughts and feels the confidence that they're going to be heard. The future of our community is much bigger than personal desires and legacies, and pet projects and special access are going to the back seat when I'm your mayor. It's time to put the public back in public serving. No, that was supposed to be an applause line. Now, we all have a stake in this community, and together we can make great things happen. And I'd love to do my part as your mayor. So for that reason, I'm asking for your vote, and I'm asking that you tell everyone else you know to get out and vote, only if they're going to vote Verga. So thanks for coming. I look forward to continuing the conversation in the coming weeks.